They say a journey begins in a single step, or in my case, one less piece of bread. My name is Chad, and I'm your test subject. I have sought out an expert in the field of nutrition and fitness who I hoped would help me feel, well, better. They call him the biohacker, but I call him Eric. I hope you'll join me on a path that leads you and I to optimal fitness as we live our lives in ketosis. This is the Life in Ketosis podcast, a biohacker's guide to optimal body performance. Hello everyone, my name is Chad, and this is my quest to achieving optimal body performance with the man that can get me there, the biohacker himself, Mr. Eric Bischoff. Every episode, Eric gives us his crazy, intense, I ride my bike like a maniac in the sauna just to condition my heat shock proteins, whatever that means, sciencey knowledge, and I break it down with my regular, non-crazy guy take. As we explore the principles of ketogenics and KPR performance training, whether you're just looking for a way to feel better or if you're an elite athlete looking for that edge, we're here to help. Welcome to the Life in Ketosis podcast. And today, we're talking about accountability. I want to ask you a question, Eric, and I guess now I've said that, you're going to know the answer. But my question, the question I was going to start out with was, in all of your experience of coaching or watching other athletes, probably not coaching because accountability's built in, but watching other athletes or wannabe athletes try to condition and train and all that kind of stuff, where do most of them fail? I'm going to guess it's in a lack of accountability. Yes. It's very much so, accountability.
Yeah.
Okay. And obviously what drives that accountability is how much passion they have or what's the purpose behind what they're doing and why and how important it is. Okay.
Yeah.
Because usually that's the driver right there.
Yeah.
I have a lot come to me with like, I want to do a marathon or I want to train for an Ironman. And I'm like, okay, now the hard part begins. You're going to train. And they're like, that's where it stops, If they're really serious, how bad do you want it and how much pain do you, and sacrifice and time and you got to go through. So, yeah.
Through some of my training and some of my, life experiences, I used to teach, I actually had a film school that I took all over the country, and I had a lot of dreamers come to me, and talk to me about what they want to do with their film work and their photography and stuff like that. And I could always tell their level of commitment by how many layers of accountability they've set up. Because once you set up a layer of accountability, that's when you mean business, right? That's when you're jumping in. That's when you're grabbing some other resource, whether it's a human, a program, a journal. We're going to talk about all of these. But I could always tell as soon as I ask them, okay, who are you accountable to? If you're going after this thing, who are you accountable to? And if they tell me one layer, I'm still iffy, right? I'm still not a believer. If they tell me, 2, 3, or 4 layers, I'm like, you're on the right track.
Exactly.
You're on your way to success because that accountability, that kind of padding inside your accountability is going to keep you on the right track.
And I always, saying and doing are so far apart. So far. There's a lot of saying out there, but if you're going to do it, how much doing are you going to do? And it's always the breaker. That's the deal breaker right there. Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody says they're going to do something, but how many people actually do it?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're right on. It's a great, podcast about accountability. You're spot on.
So accountability is your entire profession, which is pretty interesting. And can you just talk a little bit about some of the accountability that you set up for your clients and why each of those layers of accountability is beneficial to the athlete or the person who's working with you?
Yes. First of all, in just starting, I've got to try to hear what's behind their motivation. Okay, what's the reason? What's the why? What's the passion? Do they really going to have real intent about this, or is this just a passing thing that's going to say I did this or I think I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
So you really got to
get a nice idea.
Yeah, like just an idea. Of course, everybody wants it, but how bad do you really want it? All right. So then I've got to focus in on, all right,
a training plan, obviously, then we got to go through all the, obviously in elite or just in therapeutic, you're going to have nutrition, you're going to have exercise, you're going to have movement, you're going to have mental, struggles to go through. People, are always fighting with depression or anxiety through any type of of training for anything. Okay, so you got to get to the root of it and just the causal of why am I doing this, and how bad do I want it.
So one of the layers that of accountability that you employ is an accountability partner.
Yes,
basically that's what people are. That's the majority of what people are hiring you for, right? You're having weekly calls with them. What's the content of those calls, and how is the content of those calls and those conversations helping people stay on track?
And what it is, it's a way they can communicate to me. And I know most of all where people are struggling, because I'm looking at, their accountability through, their nutrition and their workouts. And I can always see from there what's not happening, okay? And a lot of times it comes down to the issues that we've got to really work with is time. Everybody seems to be running short on time. Everybody seems to be having high anxiety, stress at work, too tired to come home. So there's a lot of those, and family, which is a great thing. That's not a bad thing. That's a great obstacle to have, is family. So it depends on where their priorities are at that moment or that time, what they're trying to achieve. And I have to be careful because I don't want to push them out of their family circle. Okay, because as bad as they want it, I want it for them. And so sometimes coaches just go too far and say, hey, you got to sacrifice. All right, if your kids have a ball game, nope, this is your time. All right, you take care of yourself. Forget the family. And I'm really concerned about people making sure that part of it, the family and everything, the important things in life are there. Okay.
So I would say one thing that you are particularly very good at, as I've noticed as you've coached me, is yes, the dietary coaching is nice. You checking, food journals and exercise journals and some of those things that we'll go into next. But one thing you're particularly good at is I could tell every time we talked, you were getting a read on where I was with my mental state towards my goals, right? You were asking questions that really made me dig so that you could get a gauge on, okay, is he still in it, or has he stepped out, or is he on his way out, or is he, pushing at 100%?
And that's true. But really, it comes from, it's something that's not even thought about. It's because I believe I actually care. I actually, if I'm interested in your life, okay, how it relates to our coaching and how it relates in your everyday living. It's important because I can't take you away from other parts of your life. Okay. And I'm interested in your other parts of your life. And I learn more about you that way.
Well, and I would contest that layer of accountability where you have somebody who can get a good read on you and see where you're at in relationship to your goal on a weekly basis is really, really important, and really helpful towards your success, your path to success. So that's it. That's mostly what I wanted to say for accountability partners. So moving on to some of these programs or journaling, or I know for your clients, everybody is on MyFitnessPal. Right? They are journaling every macro that they eat.
They have to.
What's the point of that?
I'm holding them to be accountable first to themselves, okay? To actually realize what they're fueling with, all right? And then through that, they learn, what macros do this, what fat does this, what protein is this, amino acids, collagen, and glycine, and different things I just incorporate little by little, because I'm one of those big that don't give it all at first because the sustainability gets over, barren. It really does. And some people think I'm just pushing stuff their way, but I've got to. And sometimes I'm a little slow to incorporate it because I don't think they're disciplined enough yet, but they just learn as they go. So it's constant. I work with them on their macros. It takes tweaking because we're trying to biohack their macros. So if they're elite or therapeutic, it doesn't matter. You're always trying to tweak it. So there's a lot of tweaking to do, and I've learned I have really learned a ton about macros from looking at every morning. I'm going through all these hours of people's macros, and some people really enjoy looking at their macros. Some people are like me, they're boring. I mean, they're really boring. I mean, the same thing every day, but I have a client in Qatar, and she's fantastic. I love looking at hers. I have one in Austin, Texas. I love hers. I mean, they actually teach me, like, whoa, I need to broaden it out a little bit, because they're really getting a good spectrum of macros. I'm kind of easy on, I'm really boring, but I make sure I'm covered.
All of those clients understand and know that they are not only accountable to you, but they're accountable to that journal.
To it, yes. It holds them to it.
Yeah, so that's another layer of accountability that people can set in place to ensure success.
Yeah.
Find some programs, whether it's MyFitnessPal, if it's a dietary goal, or however you're measuring your success, and keep records.
Yes.
The other thing that I did throughout the process, probably the first 6 weeks of my keto journey, is I actually journaled how I felt and things that I noticed, because we were kind of test running together. I wanted to make sure that my time with you is as valuable as I was paying for or whatever. And so I journaled for 6 weeks, just making sure, because once you get into like a groove, like especially when you go keto, you can kind of get into that really like nice groove, of a lot of beta to the brain and clarity and stuff like that. And you can actually forget what it was like before you started.
I know.
And so that journaling was another layer of accountability for me, because I knew I was going to stick with it for at least 6 weeks, because I was putting you to the test.
I know.
And we succeeded big time.
But it's kind of funny when we talk about that journaling of the FitnessPal. It's interesting because on Sunday I take the day off, so I don't do any. I get up at 4 o'clock. Start the journals at 4 o'clock. Okay, the FitnessPal. On Sunday I don't. I need a day. I really do. And it's kind of funny how people, Eric's not checking on Sunday, and all of a sudden I see real, like, no lunch put in, or no dinner. Yeah. And some of them are just, they're hardcore. They're perfect. And it's easy. If you don't have somebody watching, it's kind of easy. He's not looking today. I do go back and look on Monday. I just don't comment about it, because I have to do Sundays morning, but I don't do Saturdays. So
when I knew you were watching, I was, I lied a lot. No, I'm just kidding.
There is sometimes I see something on there like, does he realize what he just put in, these guys? Somebody, it's like, he didn't eat that. There's no way.
Oh, that's so funny.
But most people are really honest.
Another thing that I wanted to bring up, and this can be an incredible layer of accountability, and people use it a lot these days. There's so much good, or there's so much bad that comes with social media, but there's so much good. And this is one piece of really good, like a lot of goodness that can come from social media, using it as an accountability system for any goal that you're going after. You put that out there for your network to see, and I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but it drives me to succeed, because I'm like, if I'm going to tell people I'm doing this, I'm going to do it. And I think that's a really cool thing, is like a lot of people start Instagram accounts, or they share on Facebook of their journey through some of these goal things, nutritional, body, aesthetics, composition.
And we try that. I mean, we do it with them, try to get it on there to get them more accountable. Like, hey, I'm in it. So, and we want people to support them, their friends, their family, and they need that additional support.
Yeah, all of your clients are asked. You don't make them do it.
I don't make them.
But they're asked to post a video on Facebook of them starting and talk about why they're doing it. Talk about their why. You talk about why all the time, and this is their commitment to the why.
Right.
This is what's going to remind them when you talked about those days of depression or those days of discouragement or whatever. These are those videos can be a huge tool for them in those dark times to go back and say, oh my gosh, that's my why.
And I look at them constantly to say, all right, this is important. This is his why.
My gosh, some of the most beautiful videos on that page, like
it's awesome.
Just seeing people. I mean, some of these people are just so ready, and you can feel their passion.
It's emotional, actually.
Yeah, it is.
Really
it really is.
And you want it so bad for them, and that's part of a coach's dilemma is you actually you really care a lot about it, so you actually. Sometimes you don't sleep because you know they're having issues and you're worried about them, and you don't get callous. It kind of sucks a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
I wish I was more of that hardcore coach who just yell and scream and, you know, do it or shut up and whatever, you know.
And then out of mind as soon as they're out of out
I'm
of
done.
sight.
I'm done. I don't have to think about it.
Yeah. If anybody
You pay me to yell at you, so
if anybody wants to see some of these commitment videos, they're pretty powerful. You can go to the BioFit Coaching Facebook page, and that's where some of them live. And pretty impressive commitment videos there. So, all right, cool. So, what happens once we succeed? Then we kind of, I think we always need accountability to something.
Always.
We're never beyond that point, right?
Right.
But once we hit a certain point or feel really good about some things that we've accomplished, my thing is if you've had tools that helped you stay accountable and reach a goal, you then turn around and pay that back.
Got it.
Find somebody to sponsor. I mean, there's a reason that, you know, AA uses this, and it's a brilliant system. But as soon as you get to a certain point within the program, you're never done, right?
Right.
That's the whole thing with AA. But you can then turn and become a sponsor for somebody else and help them through the journey. And you know what's interesting, and I'm sure I would love to hear your take on this. You and I have actually never talked about this outside, away from the mics, but I think when you take the role of an accountability partner and somebody's accountable to you, there's a certain level of accountability for yourself that naturally comes. Right? Eric can't be sitting on the couch eating bonbons and watching The Bachelor while his clients are, you know what I mean?
That'd be a maple bar donut.
But, you know, there's that added layer of benefit.
Oh, I have to. You practice what you preach.
Yeah.
Okay. And what you're talking about, that accountability, when you take that role to somebody else, and it goes back to, you know, that saying that there's really no greater joy than serving somebody else.
Yeah.
And I really believe when people do that and they experience that joy from that, it what goes around comes around. It really does.
Absolutely.
I mean, you carry it forward, and then you really reap the benefit to actually where that's more rewarding than what you just achieved.
Right.
And it's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why I like coaching, because I sometimes, maybe I'm selfish, but I get a reward from it. You know, I do. I feel it. And sometimes I forget about my own training, and then I say, well, you know, I'm more worried about everybody else's training than my own, and then I feel like, you know, I got to train today, so I can't take the time to do this. I got to train.
That sense of integrity.
Yeah, it's a battle sometimes.
Kicks in. Yeah, that sense of integrity, because you want to be practicing whatever you're asking people to do. And I think that's innate. I think most of us have that integrity naturally. And so once we find some success and decide to turn around and help other people find that success, it's going to naturally benefit us.
For sure.
Yeah. So my last point, or kind of to wrap all of this up, is I want to be very clear, is that putting in place these layers of accountability does not ensure success.
Yes.
Right? These aren't a crutch. These aren't an easy way. It still takes grit.
Yes.
Right? It still takes
hard work.
Everything within you to stick to it. But the accountability is just there to make sure that you're putting everything in. So as good as, I mean, you can have the best accountability system ever, but if you're not putting in the work, it doesn't do anything, right? It's fruitless.
It really is.
I mean, that's,
and it's sad because people pay, you know, a sacrifice for that. I mean, not, you know, they have to, you know, they sacrifice their time, their family. You know, of course, they think they're sacrificing some of the food they used to think they really liked or needed. And it's a lot of effort. And sometimes they don't see the results quick enough. And that's a big obstacle I have to deal with, because everybody wants instant gratification or success. Everybody's. That's human nature, okay? But sometimes, you know, to undo 30 years, 20 years of bad nutritional feeding, you just can't do it in 10 weeks, 8 weeks. You know? I try, but it takes time. Your hormones and your balance, we got to get everything back to homeostasis, and that's a whole, you know, another talk. But
yeah,
but it's part of it. So don't get discouraged. That's the big thing.
yeah, absolutely. Anything else that you want to make sure people know about accountability, or anything that you use with your clients to make sure that they remain accountable?
I'm trying to always talk to them each week, and they've got to get their coach calls into me, and I actually look forward to those coach calls, because then I can actually see how they're really doing.
Yeah.
I do follow them. I hold them account on their workouts through workout calendars. I see that every day. I see their macros every day. So there's communication through messaging back and forth every day. So that's. Everything is accountability. It really is. And some people have the drive that they can do it temporarily without anything, but whatever's driving that motivation. But sooner or later, those days are going to come that, why am I doing this? I mean, this sucks.
Yeah.
I'm tired. And even I get those days where my training, I'm like, I just, I see other people just relaxing. I'm out there at 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
But boy, I always say to everybody, remember that feeling when you leave the gym or you're done with your workout. Just remember that feeling, and next time you get to that point where you got to go work out, think of that feeling you had when you were done. There's not a better feeling.
Yeah.
And it'll take you there again. It
Yeah.
will take you back to it.
Yeah. And you know what's, and this is my final point.
Yes.
I already said I was making a final point, but I
Yeah,
just want to
that was
I just
my
want to put I just want to put this out there, is that any success is so much sweeter with your tribe around you. Right? If you accomplish something in a box, and just you're on an island.
Yeah.
I mean, that's great. That's awesome. You did it. But how much sweeter, how much more gratifying is it when you have these people surrounding you that have been cheering you on, keeping you accountable, sometimes showing you a little bit of tough love,
Right.
and you accomplish it, and they're there at the finish line with you. Like that, nothing is more gratifying.
And you doing that can be a motivation for them to say, like you have, Chad's doing it, I want to do it.
Yep.
If Chad can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
And it just has an effect on people.
Yeah, it's incredible.
So it is
It's
neat.
awesome.
It's pretty exciting.
Well, thanks for biohacking with us
No,
today,
thank
Eric.
you.
And I want to thank you for joining us on this. I lost my place there. And I want to thank you for joining us on this quest for optimal fitness. If you're ready to begin your own journey and live your life in ketosis and get a little bit of accountability, be sure to check out biofitcoaching.com or BioFit Coaching on Facebook. Also, if this podcast has helped you in any way or entertained you, we encourage you to consider going to iTunes and leaving a review and a 5-star rating for the podcast. It helps us reach more people. And finally, the greatest compliment that you can give us is sharing this podcast with your loved ones that need it, your friends and your family. Until next time, stay keto.